The Two and Out CFL podcast with Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones starts now.
And good evening, or morning, or afternoon, or whenever you're listening to this. Sheldon Jones, I think we're much too old to be up this darn late.
We sure are. But you know what? One of us likes being up this late, so you're welcome.
This is when I definitely function at my highest ability. So the fact that we are on YouTube at close to 1 a.m. Eastern is all right with me. Sheldon, we haven't done this for a while. I thought it'd be fun to go over maybe some recent reviews on Apple Podcasts. Every once in a while, I check it to see if there's any bad reviews on there, and so far, not really. Papa Duck Chris writing, I'm always looking forward to the excellent banter from Trav and Sheldon. I've never listened to an episode that didn't leave me chuckling and often outright laughing out loud. Keep it up, boys. And then from EB_CFL, Travis and Sheldon are a staple for us CFL fans. Love the show. And then from Canadian Greco on Apple Podcasts. I like the game summaries and talk about injuries and rosters. I really hope you'll be making your predictions immediately after talking about each game upcoming matchup rather than shooting them off machine gun style at the end in 5 seconds. It makes more sense to incorporate it at the end of each matchup discussion. I look forward to predictions. Current way is annoying. Hey, that's fair. And I'll tell you what.
We got a funny tweet about that one time when I was pretty monotone. Yeah.
So starting this episode, let's lock in each individual pick after each individual game. I'll tell you the reason why I've been doing it that way. Because in the 45 to 60 seconds that we do it, I can easily extract it and post it on Instagram and TikTok and all of that good stuff. And it just makes it easier for me. So, maybe I'll just put extra work in and do the picks separately after the show. We'll figure that out. Sheldon, how are you feeling about the rule changes? You know, here we are 72 hours later, about?
Yeah. I'm feeling, I guess, I would say I'm still pretty optimistic that it's going to be okay. I think I've listened to every single one of Stuart Johnson's interviews in media after this, just because I was trying to hear if he answered a question differently, or if it at the end, near the end of the day, if he kind of got tired and would slip up a little bit and kind of give a little bit more of a real answer. And just to be honest, he was very consistent, and I really like that he said, I think it was on Dusty Nielsen's show, less than 1% of my brain is ever thinking about the NFL and going to four downs, etc. So, I think at least at least for me, cooler heads have kind of prevailed, and I still don't love missing the 55-yard line, the shortening the field that way, but I am actually pretty optimistic about the possibility of, having a CFL field inside a soccer stadium down the line for possible expansion. So if that actually does come true, that's a good way for the league to get some more money, and that's what they need. So, but I think the sun came up, and we're going to be okay, at least for now. How about you?
Yeah, that's the same thing for me. I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but I think, like anyone, I do get affected by the social media chatter and the constant negativity, and that is what pushes the algorithm. I do understand that. We had the post on our Facebook actually go absolutely bananas, which has been pretty wild to see. I think I have a concern that there's actually going to be more punts. And I think I underestimated how important the kicker is to the CFL game. And, well, maybe that's not the right choice of words. I've always loved how the CFL keeps the foot in football, as I like to say. And
Mhm.
I started thinking about some of the great kickers in CFL history. And from Louis Pasaglia to Ozzy Osbaldiston to Bob Cameron to Noel Prefontaine to the current crop, Rene Paredes, to Sean White. I don't think I mentioned Paul McCallum. Justin Medlock was a recent retiree. And then I asked you, how many kickers do NFL fans rail off? Do you know what I mean? And there's Adam
Yeah,
Vinatieri, and
and
it seems like
that's
everybody else.
yeah, that's the only one that really straight came to like because if you're talking punters, obviously I would have thought about Pat McAfee, but that's just because now he's in wrestling and all that stuff. But yeah, and the only other kicker really that I know of, like really know, is Mason Crosby because I'm a Packer fan and he played for the Packers for so long. So, um, yeah, I just think that probably, and maybe, for not for the greatest reasons, but some of these kickers, while they've been really good at making field goals, there's also been, the odd time when they've had a missed field goal return for a touchdown, and we like their name gets brought up with that because they're the ones who missed that field goal, and I think that kind of helps bring a little bit more notoriety to the kickers. So I guess that is still one of the rule changes that I am slightly struggling with, but I'm really not because I am ecstatic about the Rouge change. This is exactly what I wanted. That there's no bones about that. That's been my stance ever since I've been privileged enough to sit in this co-host chair. So, but the missed field goal certainly highlighted the kickers, and just just I know we had that rookie in the NFL in the preseason hit that like 72 yarder or whatever in preseason. It didn't count, but like I just know of Castillo and McCallum and these players who have hit the like plus 60-yard field goals, and you know uh, it's gonna look the same. Like, it's gonna look the same, I guess, but I think it's actually gonna look a little bit different in 27, just because the field position where they're actually going to be kicking from. I think it's going to take a while for us to understand the perception of like that's how long the kick is, and to take our minds away from, oh, they made it to the 45-yard line. Yeah, we're field goal range, baby, but yeah, no, you won't be anymore.
I'm not 100% thrilled with the Rouge change. I just wish all
Yep.
kicks in play were still,
If it bounced, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, even without the returner touching the punt or the short field goal or whatever it
Yeah.
may be. I
I would have been fine with that. Yeah.
So yeah, like prior to the press conference, I was fully ready to call the Elks and say, we'll see you when I see you.
Yeah.
And Austin in the chat saying he's still not optimistic about the CFL going forward, but I don't think I'll stop supporting the Stamps anytime soon. I think that is a
I'm glad to
very,
hear that.
I think it's a very fair way to go about things. I think there's still worry about 2028 and beyond. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And there's still lots of questions like how does this bring more money to the league and things like that remains to be seen. And let's go like to some more reaction like on Blue Sky. Bear Paw Chris saying, hey, I'm still feeling okay. It's still Canadian ball. It's 3 downs. It's a wide field of play. I don't see a negative to any of the changes. It's still unique to us. The only way I'd not want to watch anymore if 4 downs is adjusted. Steve saying, not sitting well, move the goalpost to the back, takes away missed field goal returns. And that's the amazing thing with sports. Normally we're trying to add ways to score, and no matter how rare it is a way to score. And many times it does put offenses into great field position, even if it doesn't get into the end zone. So I can understand
True.
being sad seeing that go away.
So I just have like a question, and it's kind of tongue in cheek, but at the same time not. Is that just another thing of how truly Canadian this game is, because we are so used to being like, sorry, you missed that field goal. Here's a point, bud. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but like, that's kind of how I always felt about it. Like, I'm not one of the people who thought that field position is the bare minimum that needed to be
Well, and I meant bringing it
reflected in
back,
scoring.
not the
No, I
rules.
understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand like that portion of it, but I just mean like of the is that why people are in Canada as fans of the CFL, is that why we're so, attached to that still getting a missed point because of the advancing the field position, even though you can move it 80 yards in 5 seconds with forward passings. But again, I don't think we need to beat a dead horse about it. But like you said, that is I can understand. Yeah, like it maybe only happened 1.9% or whatever it was that somebody on Twitter did the research about the amount of kicks last year that were actually returned for touchdowns. But that 1.9%, if that's what the number was, super exciting and kind of made it feel like it was a lot more. So I completely get it.
So in the next 50 years, will we be talking about kickers in the same way? Will they be as important to the CFL game? And for that matter, will returners be as important to the CFL game? That is like, so when you see Janarian Grant back there, Mario Alford, when he's got the right decisions going on, Isaiah Wooden out of Hamilton, Seven
Yeah.
McGee's making plays in BC, the guys in Ottawa, whether it's Pimpleton or Deadman, these guys are dangerous and they make teams think twice. And you know what? If a team does want to try to kick 55, 60-yard field goals or try those, that will still be in
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
But I wonder how that will change roster makeup. You know what I mean? Like if they're going to
Yeah.
be having less returns in general, then it could be very interesting to see how that develops. Well, Steve continued to say some of the changes that he has wanted to see addressed have to do with the marketing. No long-term contracts for players. It's the 1 and 2 year deals that don't breed team familiarity. Buying merch. The coaches cap, saying that those are bigger issues in the game that need addressing. I also do wonder that a lot of these changes are familiar rules to people that have watched CFL football. I don't know if the casual fan cares about the ops cap. I think
Yeah.
that'll be the
Yeah.
Grey Cup nerds. And maybe we'll get the news there for the real diehard
Right.
fans of the CFL.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. Just quickly, I just wanted to point out that I think that the return game is kind of safe as long as, we stick with the wide field. And that seems to be, Stuart Johnson said multiple times on different things that the wide field is what he thinks outside of the three downs is the most important and Canadian part of the game, just because there's more room for returns and there's more room for all the receivers who are doing the waggle to make some moves. So I think as long as we have that, our return game will still be strong. And also just to my beautiful wife who's watching, touchdown for a million should still be there because that's kickoffs, not missed field goals. So that one's safe.
Paul Ferocious in the chat saying changes will be hardest on low talent teams in Saskatchewan. Now I don't
How
want
many
to
teams
seem
do
like
we
a
have?
like a shill of the Riders, but they're 10-3.
Like, are we talking
Maybe
the
it's
the
some trash talk. I don't know.
are we talking the junior teams? Because we don't know, because there's only one team in Saskatchewan. But uh, yeah, I think there's one other point I wanted to make too. Oh yeah, talking about players who like may have less of a role. I know, maybe we'll still have the short yardage quarterback, although I think, even though I like seeing people like Tommy Stevens or Strevler or whoever come in and get that one nasty yard to keep the drives going, when it gets down to the 1 yard line, now that's kind of the standard play just because they're right up against the goalposts, right? So having that moved, maybe that opens up things where you don't always have to just you still have, 15 yards of real estate. You might not have to bring in your jumbo package just to try to get that yard. You could still shotgun play and have a lot more options there. So that might, maybe we'll see less of the Tommy Stevens and the Chris Strevelers being in the top third of the touchdown scorers every year just because of the situations that bring them close to the goal line for touchdowns.
HB Saw says, the more I think about it, the more on board I am. Above all, I am a fan and will always cheer for the CFL and the Riders no matter what form it takes. Then I got a message here from MJ saying, I'm still in shock that they didn't consult U Sports, of which some share or co-own own/co-own stadiums with CFL teams. It comes across as a personal vendetta, and I'm honestly pretty worried about the hinted future changes. In a world of Johnstons, be a Rourke. I kind of liked that line that he included at the end there. Now, the U Sports teams and universities owning stadiums, I do think is an interesting point. And if there's going to be... Now, here's the thing, Sheldon, and I talked to you about this earlier today, and I've seen this among other CFL fans too, about 7 of 9 teams losing money. And collectively, this year, the salary cap went up over $400,000 per team because of increasing revenues. So
Right.
that's another, expense. If a team's losing money, and then now they got to pay, that much more. And now if the team's losing money, they have to pay to move the goalposts, which I don't know how much. It's crazy to me how quickly these projects can cost $1 million. But maybe it costs 50 grand. I don't know. But that's another expense for these teams that are losing money. We only know the Riders and the Bombers books. And there seems to be a sentiment among fans that some of these rich owners are kind of using their franchises as loss leaders. But I will not debate that the franchise values have not grown as much as the rich guys would have liked to have seen so far.
Right. And like I think, as I said to you earlier, like the TSN money and that kind of stuff, you can do whatever you want with it, but that traditionally is covering the salary cap. And this being the first year that revenue sharing was fully official once they had the numbers from last year, I believe. I think that, it was a good thing to give that money just straight to the players as part of the salary cap. Because these players have been fighting for a while to be able to get some revenue sharing, and they deserve it. I'm just wondering if maybe in subsequent years, if revenue does go up, and league revenue is definitely different than team profits, because certain teams will spend more money than they earn, obviously. But I'm just wondering if maybe some of that money, instead of going straight to the cap, it might go to more player amenities at facilities. And like, the Riders, for example, they have a state-of-the-art locker room with a barber shop and all this stuff in there. So maybe something like that, these teams can add to their locker rooms with that kind of revenue sharing for the players, because it's technically amenities for those players. But again, about the teams not being profitable, yeah, it's definitely widely speculated, and there's certain owners that love the game enough to buy these teams and suffer these losses, but they're not going to be willing to do that forever. And you know, hopefully, maybe in some of these expenditures that's going to be needed. Like some teams have already been, I think, budgeting for turf install. Like for example, and it's terrible timing because Calgary just redid their turf, but I believe Calgary paints the lines on, so it should be good other than moving the goalposts. But I know the Riders are in line for new turf. They already knew it. They were preparing to do it this year. They'll probably delay it until the year after now, or after this year, sorry. But I'm also wondering, Stuart Johnson, since he's come in, another thing that he has been able to do that I haven't really noticed with a lot of predecessors before, especially like Randy and before that with Orage, he was able to bring in quite a number of key sponsorships. Official beer, Bud Light, Mobil becoming the official gas. Certain things like that.
Man, now we're seeing Choice Hotels, the official hotels of
yeah,
CFL fans.
yeah,
No Frills, the official grocer of the CFL, which I find interesting because there's the Save on Foods thing.
yeah.
It's
But
wild. It
and I
seems
thought,
like revenues are
yeah,
going up.
yeah. And so if that's gonna like hopefully because the players get 25% of the revenue going up, but the owners should be getting the other 75% when it comes to revenue sharing and all that stuff. So um, hopefully that helps some of these teams if there's some of these teams that are just that close to being in the black instead of the red. Hopefully that can push them over the hump here. But maybe what I was kind of getting to is that maybe there's some sponsors that can they can because at Commonwealth they had like the brick field at Commonwealth Stadium or something like that. So maybe they can have some of more of those sponsorship type things to help offset those costs so that, this move in 2027 isn't as hard on the owners' books as well. But also just to help maybe get some money for amateur sports and youth sports to help cover those costs because there's a lot more stadiums that will need to be changed if they're going to be adopting these rules.
There's some really great points coming up in the live chat. So that's why it's nice to do this live, and it's great to be here um, with you guys. It makes it easier. Austin saying Calgary has a line painting robot that takes care of things on the field, and also says the goalposts are actually easy to remove now. They remove the uprights for any NSL soccer match, and they actually had proper rugby uprights for the USA Canada men's rugby match a few weeks ago. So it seems like Calgary is not going to be an issue at old Mac Mahon Stadium.
Nice.
So Tyler Forness is he's a media for A to Z Sports, but sorry, Tyler, we're going to say A to Z Sports. He covers the Minnesota Vikings and Florida Gators. He's an NFL draft analyst, and he has said the overwhelming consensus among other American media he's talked to believes these rule changes are Americanizing the game. He gets it, but says they're lacking context. The talking points are the goalposts moving back in the 100-yard field, whereas they are not talking about things like the rouge and the play clock and things like that. Maybe those rules weren't even really familiar to the broader American CFL fans. So maybe they have said they've wanted the game to look more familiar to others watching. 8-Bit Paul. Well, I'll save that comment here. Brad Zuckerman saying, so no more Johnny Rogers, Pinball Clemens, Gizmo Williams, Janarian Grant, Super Mario. Some of these most entertaining players worth the price of admission, we remember decades later, will no longer be a part of our game. That is a concern, man, and I definitely don't want to see that go away. So 8-Bit Paul says he's increasingly convinced that this will help get a big worldwide streaming deal by 2027. Netflix, Prime, whoever it is, that means consistent money for the league and new fans to sell merch to. Now, Sheldon, you brought it up. This will be easier for CFL field to fit inside of a soccer stadium. And I was actually watching Doug, part of the Argos fan cast, on his own YouTube channel, brought up some really interesting points. And in an ideal world, I would like to see a pro CFL team have their own stadium. The economics in Canada and the CFL looks like it doesn't make that possible. But just say there are CFL teams that could share the stadium with an MLS or a CPL franchise. It
Yeah.
obviously already happens in Toronto. We don't
Hmm.
know how McGill and maybe the UFC. It sounds like the UFC in Calgary, it's going to be okay with moving the goalposts, that kind of thing. We don't know how McGill and Montreal are going to react to that. But this
Hmm.
does open up the possibility of maybe Montreal, and it's sad. I think Percival Molson's an iconic place, but what if they could move into Saputo Stadium where CF Montreal plays? Or in Vancouver, BC Place is great for Grey Cups and things like that, and for 50 Cent concerts, but there's not always an intimate atmosphere there if there's 20, even 25,000 in the stands. Same with Edmonton, really. Even if there's 30,000, that basically covers the lower bowl. Now, if and it would split the cost too. If these rich owners and soccer franchises, if they could play together, I think it could create some intimate venues across the country and bring more options that way. And not only for existing teams, but for future teams. There's a lot of talk right now about possible American expansion again. I don't even really care about that right now. Even if maybe some northern states, I know St. Louis is thrown out there, but let's just leave that out of the conversation for now. There's some UFL talk happening later this decade, so let's leave that. I think of Halifax, the Wanderers. They're doing some studies for a new $116 million stadium in Halifax. What if some owners could split the cost and get the CFL into there and get the Schooners on the field? Or
Hmm.
Kitchener Waterloo, or Quebec City. It does feel like easier to make that happen. And if that happens, then the TV deal grows. At this stage, it seems like why would TSN bid more if they're the only guys bidding?
100%. Yeah.
So if you get more games, suddenly it is worth more. It makes the scheduling easier.
Yeah.
That's the optimist in me talking. I don't care that the NFL can now have preseason games in Canada. I really do not care about that. I only care about what's happening in the CFL. Now, the league hasn't mentioned this, so that's why it's interesting. But remember the last time they had a big reveal, the Atlantic Schooners, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So maybe it would be better
Twice now.
yeah, to just make that announcement when everything's set in stone instead of getting everybody's hopes up and selling season ticket deposits and nobody seeing anything with that $50, you know?
Yeah, as I said, I'm very hopeful about that. You know, it can even make like touchdown Atlantics easier, I guess, because you could use that stadium if they don't get a CFL season or team for the first while, they could just go back to touchdown Atlantics in that stadium, and then you can kind of see what it's like, and hopefully when they do make that stadium, it's able to be expanded if possible. But I think there is optimism in these rules. There is nervousness, maybe a little bit of worrying when it comes to possibly more rules. But um, I guess my plea here is that I hope that most people, and I've been looking online at like, sites like Rider Fans and Twitter and other places where there's been some polls that have said, are you fully on board with the rule changes? Are you you somewhat on board, or do you hate it? Are you done with the CFL? I'm seeing a lot less done with the CFL than I thought I would, which is great. I hope that people kind of realize that we still have, there was a thing shared on Twitter that had like all the little things of our rules, and there's a little Canadian maple leaf beside, and there's only two that were X's, and the bottom one, we have better beer too. So that one just kind of
Cheers.
it reinforced to me that we still have so much of this game that is Canadian, and why we fell in love with it. And I've also seen a lot of people online on Twitter saying that, they love the CFL not only because the game, because of all the fans that they've met and the camaraderie between fans at Grey Cup and all of that stuff. And so all of that is still here, everyone. And I hope that people can realize that, see that. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your fandom and and you're allowed to feel however you want. I just hope that people are still giving it a chance and, realizing that next year is not going to be that different, just a few different things. And then give it a chance in 2027. Let's see how this goes. And if we do get those 60 extra touchdowns that they say we will, which again, it's less than one per game. So, I, I honestly, when I first heard it, just like you, I laughed. I was like, give me a break. But less than one touchdown a game, if you're taking away 10-yard starting point, if you're, I do see how that it can be, not only optimistic, but attainable. So let's give it a chance and let's chat about a nice upcoming week of CFL football.
Question number 2, and I mean this with the utmost respect as a season ticket holder that has my name on accounts for 2 franchises. I wonder if those people that say they're done with the CFL have bought a ticket or 2 in the last few years. Because if they did, with the amount of angry comments I'm seeing, I don't think we would be in this situation. You know what I'm saying? So if we don't want any further changes, I realize not everybody has the means. Buy a ticket or 2 and watch some CFL football live.
100%. It actually just takes me back to when a certain team had to change their name. And there was a lot of people who were saying they're never going back to games. Well, there wasn't 40,000 people in Edmonton the year before they changed their tickets. So, again, like you say, there's a lot of people commenting and they just feel a certain way about how something is. Maybe right now it's just people are ultra Canadian and we're dealing with a tough time when it comes to the U.S. and who is in charge down there. And maybe there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily CFL fans who are just saying that they're done and they won't support it because it's showing it's becoming American. So again, I echo your sentiments there.
Tyler is saying, I don't know if the teams in the 90s in America had the ratio, but I think they would have to abide by the same rules as the Canadian teams. Tyler, they did not have the ratio. So when Baltimore won the Grey Cup in 1995, and when they were in the Grey Cup in 1994, that's why it was a really big deal. Spoiler alert, when the BC Lions won that game because Canadians were on BC, and it was on the foot of the great Louis Pasaglia where that game ended, even though that the Baltimore CFLers / Stallions were playing with a different set of rules. It was sure a unique time. And I do want to get to this email we got from Bart saying, hey, great shows, talking about the upcoming rule changes and then the rule changes. He says, I have to weigh in on some of the officiating related stuff. The 35-second clock. He says, let's be clear, the play clock is not the clock. It's the amount of time teams have to put the ball into play. As long as the game clock is whistled in at around the 20-second mark, it won't matter. I actually like this change because the deal is this. When it comes to starting the clock in the last 3 minutes after a player is tackled in bounds, the head ref blows time in once. The sticks are set. The ball is placed down on the field where it went dead or whichever hash is closer to where the player was tackled. Then the head ref takes a quick look to ensure that all the officials are ready to go and in the right place. For example, the ump had to run from where he placed the ball back behind the line of scrimmage beside the ref. Then and only then is time whistled in. My problem with the current way it's done is that not all refs do this the same. There are few head men in the league who favor the offense in what I consider a fairly egregious way. Allows the team to get up to the line, be ready to snap the ball before they even whistle time in. In the amateur games where I was a head ref, as soon as the ball and sticks were set, time went in, period. But some of the refs really hang on and wait. This, in my opinion, is an excellent way to mitigate that variance between head refs, but I agree with you guys. We can't let teams run off 35 seconds per play before the ball is snapped. I strongly suspect there will be some tweaking of the rules around when the game clock actually starts. That'll be the tough part to solve, but actually having a 35-second play clock that starts when the play goes dead is probably a good idea. If there are questions, what if there's a penalty? And if there's a penalty, when does the play clock start again? When the sticks are moved, or does the play clock blow through the penalty? This isn't tenable with replay reviews, etc. As for the rest of it, I can live with it. The loss of 99% of missed field goal returns is one thing I will likely truly grieve. And there has been some talk on X that this could add, double-digit plays a game to the game. And that would help us get to that 60 extra touchdown, Sheldon.
It sure would. Yeah, it sure would. I think that rule I think is actually going to be really, really beneficial after the thought about it. And I think the most important thing that I've noticed in listening to Stuart Johnson is that he reiterated almost in every interview that the last 3 minutes are one of the most important and exciting parts of the Canadian game, and they are working whether, it might be an extra timeout in each half. It might be, just the clock starting in a different time. Like Bart said, they may be starting it at the 20-second mark or whatever. But he said that, the rules committee at the end of the season, that's going to be one of the tasks, is to make sure that they can find a way to, with this new dynamic play clock, still preserve that at the end of the game.
So I think the rules committee meetings some years can be pretty boring, maybe pretty dry.
Not this year.
I wish there was a microphone in the room for these ones, man.
They should make a YouTube, they should make a web series.
They should.
Like CFL Unreal, the rule changes. Let's Stuart, get on our show, man. We got ideas for you.
Hey, yeah, I think that would be amazing to be in the room for that. Sheldon, have your power rankings ready. So before we start talking about the Week 17 games, here we are talking about the rules, and it's going to be like this for the next 2 years. And then even once the rules come into play, we'll be talking about it as well. But before we get to the games, the power rankings now exclusively live on YouTube until we release it later.
Yeah, so right now, Saskatchewan holds on to the number 1 spot. Hamilton is up to number 2, I think. Calgary number 3, Toronto number 4, BC number 5. I got Winnipeg at number 6, Edmonton at number 7, Montreal at number 8, and Ottawa still clinging to the basement at number 9. That's what happens when you let Chris Strevler beat you.
I think the Lions and the Owls, I think they're going to start maybe making some noise in your power rankings over the next few weeks.
I would not be surprised. We're going to get to it up here in the preview, but we got a lot of quarterbacks who are ready to go this week, it seems. So, yeah, it should be a very interesting week.
Every quarterback that was available to play Week 1 is healthy for the first time since week one.
Yeah, unreal.
Of course, the Elks have now changed starting quarterbacks to Trey Ford. Yeah. Chad Kelly's still not available, but everybody... And Fajardo was on an active roster back then, too.
Oh, sure was, yeah.
So everybody that was available, other than the Zach Collaros suspension, back on the roster now, which is phenomenal. And... it starts in Montreal. The Alouettes, 3.5-point favorites over the visiting Calgary Stampeders. I just looked quickly back in time, and the Stamps have not won in Montreal since 2018. There were even really good Stampeder teams that struggled in Montreal. I think that 2018 win was also like a 12-6, ugly game, one of those ugly games. And they didn't visit Montreal, I believe, in 2021 or 2022. So take that into account. But the over-under here at 50.5. And big news for the Montreal Alouettes. Davis Alexander is back. His first game since week 7. He had also missed games in 4, 5, and 6 as well, came back, scored the winning touchdown in week 7. On that winning touchdown, hurt that hamstring again, and he's been out until now. He has not lost a game in his young CFL career, so to have him back is huge for the Owls.
Oh, it is. And he's kind of one of the last pieces of the puzzle who is getting healthy, because they've got Austin Mack back. They've got Philpott back. Like they are healthy. And this is this is what we've been saying for quite some time, that Montreal just needs to ride through this injury setback, and as soon as Alexander gets back, it's going to be okay. It took a little bit longer, I think, than everyone was kind of hoping, and they happened to almost lose every single game during that period. So not ideal, but luckily they are in the East and they were still in the hunt because of their great start. And I'm very interested to see if Alexander is able to keep this winning streak, because he's got to be getting close to Bo. I think Bo has the record with 9. I think, right, first 9 games. Is that correct? I think.
Yeah,
and
Davis is at 7 or 8, I believe.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm interested to see if he's able to tie or even best that crazy stat. Really.
Also, big news for the Stampeders that Vernon Adams Jr. looks like he's good to go. It didn't look good.
No.
When he left the game. He did look wobbly to me, but the Stamps and him maintain it was a back injury. But he has not looked the same since about Labor Day. So to get back into form for this matchup against the Noel Thorpe-led Alouettes defense, it's not going to be an easy task for Big Play VA back to his former digs.
Again, that's another thing where, like, last week, before he got injured, rough outing, and typically it seems like when he's facing off against his former teams, he thinks or not thinks, but like maybe there's just some subliminal part that he has to play a little harder and a little try to put everything on his back, and maybe do some riskier stuff to try to make big explosion type plays. And it didn't work out last game. And with PJ Walker going down with, I think, what most likely would be a season-ending injury, and them re-signing Logan Bonner, who, let's be honest, was not good when he had his chance last season.
5 picks against the Elks.
Yeah. So he's, I wonder if Vernon's going to feel like, the pressure is on and he has to perform because the player that is behind him, is not a suitable level, in my opinion, to take this team to continue to keep them in second place, fighting for first place against the Riders. So I just hope VA is able to get in there, get in a rhythm, and for his sake, string some drives together and get back into things without, because Montreal's defense, like you said, Noel Thorpe, he likes to confuse quarterbacks. He likes to send a lot of pressure, and sometimes VA feeds off that, and he's able to make players miss, and the receivers do a good job at running the whatever, you know what I mean? And I just hope it doesn't go really, really south again, because I love VA. He's one of my favorite players, and he's one of the players I want marketed to the stratosphere in this league. So even as a Rider fan, I'm hoping he has a good game here and gets in there.
So last week against the Argos, and they'll probably do it again. Watch Jeffrey Canton Arcu and what he's doing on almost every play. He's all over the place. He's the size of a D lineman, but they have him as a linebacker, and they'll have him up threatening to blitz and dropping back. He's doing it all the time, and it was very tough for the Argos to get a hold of it. So I'm assuming probably going to be doing that against Calgary. All that being said, that the Owls are getting healthy on defense, and I don't think that anybody's going to deny that the defense has been Well, it's all been complimentary football in Montreal. The defense has been great. They take the ball away from you. James Letcher Jr. on special teams, and the offense taking advantage of that. And now, I think it was tough to get going earlier this season, but I think they got a running game now. Stevie Scott III looks poised to get another start. He's a big dude, and it looks like these DBs and linebackers, they really struggle tackling him, and the Stamps are giving up 5.7 yards a carry on the ground, with a Remalade remaining out for the Stamps defense. And the Stamps now, if you look at the stats, they're now league worst, 113.9 rushing yards against. Jason Moss, not his favorite thing to run the ball, but Stevie Scott III on CFL Fantasy is $4,000. I think I can find room for that on my roster.
Absolutely. It is crazy that Calgary has somehow fallen that far when it comes to the rush defense, because they were dominant against the run early on, and most of it in the last few games probably due to Flo Lamorati not being in there anymore. He's a big body in the middle there, and takes up a lot of space, and kind of plugs those gaps. So yeah, with that value when it comes to CFL fantasy, with seemingly every starting quarterback and top receiver and top running back are all close to that $14,000 to $15,000 now. A guy like him only at $4,000. I think that's a great smart pick in your fantasy.
So the crackpot team behind the scenes, me, verified Davis Alexander's winning streak, 8-0, which ties most all time with Danny McManus. So if he wins this game, I do think it is the most.
Where's Bo on that list?
I do
Was he
not
at 7
know.
then?
I saw a list of 2, and it was Danny Mack.
Okay. All right.
He might have been at 7, but he was near the top. Anyway, Paul's saying this is a huge comeback week for the Stampeders, and Dave Dickenson is the coach of the year. You know what? I don't think I'm against that. However, I notice at the CFL Awards, they always go for the cliche pick. Oh, who's number 1? Let's put Corey Mace and Scott Milanovich. I think that's probably what it'll be. But the turnaround from the Stampeders, 8-5 right now. With 12 new starters on the defense.
Yeah.
Even though the struggles in September, it's pretty remarkable.
For sure. And I hate to say this, and again, this is kind of in tongue in cheek, but that's a pretty Americanization if you want to talk about it, because in the NFL, the coach of the year typically is the comeback coach of the year. It's not who wins the Super Bowl. So, and again, I'm just joking when it comes to that, but I do think that, he certainly deserves to be in contention. I also do think, though, that, when somebody is able to improve on their first year as a rookie head coach, which is already really good, when it comes to Corey Mace, I think that is also quite remarkable when it comes to coaching. So right now, green glasses or not, I'd say Corey Mace is my choice for top coach as of right now. But yeah, Dickinson certainly makes a point of contention there.
Well, and just what a turnaround, because remember last year, all the talk of the locker room in Calgary, like a lot of talk that it was just a mess. And obviously winning fixes that. Bringing in VA as the leader he is definitely fixes that.
Hot breakfast, I think fixed them a little bit. No, you can definitely tell that they took to heart those ratings, and they obviously have done something there, because we heard what Kadeem Carey had to say about how he felt the treatment of the players were there, and I don't think we're seeing that this year. So that's great to hear when it comes to these report cards that were released by the PA.
Sea Lightning 300 says if these quarterbacks are hiding concussions, this is so sad. Their long-term health is important. So I will save that point for a future game. But Sheldon, the Calgary Stampeders come in as 3.5-point underdogs to Montreal. The over-under at 50.5. I am going to lock my pick in here for the home team, the Montreal Alouettes, getting the win over the Stamps. A close battle. I do hope that VA and the Stamps offense can get back on track. I think we'll see a heavy dose of Dedrick Mills, but I do see the Alouettes pulling out this victory.
Yeah, I'm also taking Montreal. I just think that, whatever it is, the travel east over time zones, Montreal has always been a tough place for these Western teams to play. And, just getting Davis Alexander back, I look for him to pick up right where he left off when it comes to him and Tyson Philpott. And, with the running game that they've been able to have this last couple of games, I do just think that Montreal is going to get this win, but it's going to be a close game.
The Owls are getting some DB help back. Deontay Ruffin is available. Arthur Hamlin is available. And as soon as I mention the returns and the special teamers, James Letcher Jr. is out. He hasn't practiced this week, so that could make a difference in field position for the Montreal Alouettes. We will move to the West Coast, where the BC Lions, 7.5-point favorites over the Toronto Argonauts. The over-under is at 57.5. Now, we will refer you back a few weeks when the Argos and Lions ended up playing week 12. And the Argos popped 52 on the BC Lions. It was a 52-34 win. And after that, the Lions went on bye. And I feel like they've been a bit of a different team. They did come back from the bye. They did lose 34-33 there against the Red Blacks. And then they beat the Red Blacks 38-27. And then they popped 52 in the Stampeders last week, winning 52-23. So I know they lost to the Red Blacks in that first week. But the defense has been a lot more aggressive since that bye week, and having those struggles against Arbuckle and the Argonauts, I can't see this one going that same way. The Lions, it's quite the spread for an Argo team that has a pretty effective offense up until last week against the Alouettes, but these Nathan Rourke-led Lions, they're scoring seemingly at will right now.
They are, and this is one of those team traveling almost as far as possible when it comes to the CFL for a game. So I think that's going to be a factor. And the other thing that I think is going to be a factor is Rourke's fiery comments when it came to these rule changes. I think that's going to fire him up to try to just prove a point that the CFL is exciting enough and they didn't need to change anything. And will that come back to bite him trying to play a little bit too hard? I'm not sure, but I just I really think that getting James Butler back is huge. He's been pretty great this season, and just the receivers that Rourke has, and Toronto, again, they're going to be like a little bit jet lagged from travel, and it's I could see BC putting another 50 up here and not really struggling with that.
Yeah, those Eastern teams seem to struggle. The late games in Vancouver, we saw what Ottawa did. The late game in Vancouver there. So that Argos team, I think their defense has started to show some signs as well. They're going to have a tough task here against Rourke and the Lions. Like, there were a couple games in a row. It seemed, I think the Lions had 4 first downs, or it's not first downs, touchdowns in the first half each of the last 2 games. I don't care what defense you're playing against. They've been damn impressive.
Oh, for sure. And with Toronto, as much as their defense should be really good, I think still, their offense just scoring as many points as they have been able to do is what's been keeping them in the games, because their defense has been, giving up lots of points. So it's going to be, is Arbuckle going to have any rust from sitting out? Is he going to be able to find Herslow again? He's on that 6-game touchdown streak right now. And, with Mackay Polk back now, he's looking for the ball more, and Arbuckle's just going to try to do whatever he can, because Toronto's still in crunch time when it comes to the playoffs. BC still there nipping on the heels, close to that crossover spot. So all these games going down the stretch are just huge right now for the standings.
Keon Hatcher is the leading receiver in the CFL for the BC Lions. 79 catches, 1,317 yards. I don't like doing this quick math on the fly, but he's 127 yards ahead of Kenny the King Lawler. But Justin McInnes of the Lions has really come on as of late after a slow start to the season. He needs 24 yards to get to 1,000 on the season. And the last few games, last week, 5 catches, 88 yards, 2 TDs against the Stamps, against the Red Blacks, 4 catches, 73 yards. And then the previous game against the Red Blacks, 7 catches, 148 yards, and a touchdown. So he's certainly been racking up the yards in the last few games.
Oh yeah, ever since McInnes left Saskatchewan to go to BC, he's just, it seems like he just ascended to another level. And he's, like you said, slow start this season, but once you get to a level where you're that good and consistently that good, that's when you draw the extra coverage. And so it kind of makes sense when you can go through lulls. Like Kenny Lawler's kind of gone through a little lull here since his crazy start. So, Justin, he's a dynamic player in this league, one of the best, non-import receivers. So look for big things for him in this game, I think.
8-Bit Paul, thanks for the $2 super chat in the live chat on YouTube. 6 punts, he says, for the Lions over the past 2 games, and 6 sacks for Matthew Betts in the past 2 games as well. Things sure turning around for the orange and black.
So that means 6 of these.
Oh,
at the camera after. I love it.
Well, one of his teammates looked like they interrupted his stare and he got rattled.
Yeah. It's hilarious. I love that. I love it.
I can't even do it. The Matthew Betts stare.
Yeah, I love it.
I want that expression just on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, if the Lions, they should absolutely do that. It'd be amazing marketing. This Rider fan would definitely buy one.
Yeah, I'm in for that. Now, Jarrett Daggy starting last game for the Argos against the Alouettes, and it was thought that Nick Arbuckle was going to be out 2 to 4 weeks with this calf injury. Now it's gone all but quiet on the Chad Kelly front. I don't think he's going to play this year.
I'd be surprised, honestly. Like, I just, right now, when Arbuckle's in there, the offense has been doing enough to win. The defense, letting them down a little bit. But when they're still in a position to win here, like, Chad Kelly's going to have a lot of rust he needs to knock off when he does, if he does ever come back. And, I think rocking with Arbuckle, as long as he's healthy, is the way to go. And you don't need to see Chad Kelly there, because you're messing with continuity. Your locker room, I think, is pretty tight right now. I would say, I don't know, because I don't know how often Chad's in the building, or if he's in BC or Buffalo doing his rehab or whatever. So I'm okay with all quiet on the Kelly front, to be honest with you.
Now, Matthew Betts heating up. Actually, the Lions' D-line heating up in general. We saw these soft tissue injuries. They don't seem to heal, in a linear fashion for players.
Yeah.
So Arbuckle didn't practice Tuesday. They have him limited as Tuesday or he didn't practice Monday, limited Tuesday, Wednesday. So if the Lions are gonna, force him to be on the run, they're gonna test that calf muscle. We'll tell you that much. And the Lions are also going to be happy to have left tackle Jarrell Broxton back into the lineup as well. This guy's pretty tough to get around and get to the quarterback for Nathan Rourke. Javon Katoy is out. Adam Konar is out for the BC Lions. But, man, Gary Peters is battling a knee something. And maybe that's why he's using the trash talk to his advantage, because he didn't practice Monday, Tuesday, limited Wednesday. They have him listed as questionable, but I think his mouth might be just as valuable to his game as that knee.
He's dynamic, and just the past few games, the BC Lions defense is playing like somebody thought they might get fired. They've done it. Yeah. They've kind of done a complete 360. Or 180. I mean, sorry. They've pressured, they've changed it up, and you've seen the results on the field. So, kudos to Benavides if he's the one who made that choice, being the DC. Like, he must have been feeling the hot seat there, because it happened, and it's working so far.
Now, the chatters that are here with us, who do you think's the best trash talker in the game now? Because I think it opened up when Simone Lawrence retired. I kind of wonder if Gary is up there.
I would say Gary's up there. I'd say probably Sean Lemon is probably up there. Willie Jefferson.
Yeah, Willie would be a good
one. When he was playing, Pete Robertson seemed to be getting a little after it after some games, or after some plays. To be honest with you, I think actually Zach Caleros is one of the biggest trash talking quarterbacks, because I think he just has that chip on his shoulder from all the hits he's been taking.
I think Whitney McManus is probably a good talker too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, McManus. Yeah. Ryan Dinwiddie. I guess certainly in drums, but also after games with Mark Killam. I think Mark Killam's getting pretty pissed off out there after games here. So he needs a handler, I think, because he's having a tough time some days. So, but you know what? We would know more if TSN brought back Wired,
and now we're not talking about mic'd up like during the play. That ended up being kind of a train wreck. They had this little half an hour show they'd air once a week, and there was some good talking on there.
100%. I want that back.
So, touchdown Jake, jumping Jake, hurdling Jake Herslow in the end zone for 6 games in a row, and that included a Jarrett Daggy start. It seems like a safe bet that 87 in double blue may just end up in those, for now, 20-yard end zones at BC Place.
Yeah, he's what a great streak of games for him. He's helped them immensely on offense, and it's been super exciting doing so with all the hurdles. The one time I'm sure he regretted that hurdle when he got popped in the mouth there
against Edmonton.
Yeah, but he's finding ways to get open, and that's what you need in this league.
All right, BC Place Lions 7.5 point favorites over the Argos. I'm locking it in for the home team here. I do think the Lions offense is on an absolute roll. Nathan Rourke, not only is he hurting teams with the arm, but the rushes lately. I would like to see him take a little less hits out there, but this guy, he's playing efficient. He's playing on fire. I don't see the Argos stopping it.
No, I'm locking in BC as well. I think the travel, huge, like I said. And when you have two kind of high-powered offenses, it's going to come down to the defenses, and BC's defense is just playing better right now than Toronto's.
Then we go to the Saturday doubleheader here. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers 1.5 point favorites over the visiting Hamilton Tiger Cats. The over/under at 52.5. I believe that the Bombers are slight favorites here because the return of Zach Collaros. Now, the comment in the chat were saying, hey, I hope that quarterbacks are not hiding concussions. Well, Zach had a thing or two to say about that in practice. He said, if I shouldn't be out there, then I wouldn't be out here. Health is an ongoing conversation, obviously, so without being too inflammatory to address some of that stuff, I don't pay attention to stuff outside the building. Zach, please be inflammatory. Give us quotes like Nathan Rourke. But I guess he did give us a quote saying, hey, if I shouldn't be out there, then he wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Nobody's questioning his toughness. He's going to be back out there for the blue and gold.
Yeah, Zach's a gamer. He always has been. He's like we say, and I don't think it was out of line for Milt Siegel's comments. But again, it is up to Zach and it's up to his family. We can all feel whatever way we want to about this, but as long as Zach feels he's healthy enough to go out there, that's the choice that he's making. And I would hope that the Bombers medical team wouldn't let him out there if he wasn't cleared. So let's call a spade a spade. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers with Zach Collaros are a far better team than the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with Chris Streveler. Not always will you play Ottawa and let them just run over you with Chris Streveler as the quarterback, and you get some. They had some help with Vavel with his kick return, his missed field goal returns. Those certainly were, I think, the difference in that game. But Winnipeg's offense certainly did not do enough to win that game, and playing Hamilton with Hamilton's offense and the firepower that they have, they're going to have to be a lot better this week to escape with a win.
Now, the thing is, Brady Oliveira actually had, a couple good games when Zach wasn't in there. He had 100 yards last week against the Red Blacks. He had 116 yards against the Ticats, 7.7 yards a carry there. Here's the thing. We've seen Jason Hogan, while he has Brady Oliveira at his, what's the word? Disposal? Yeah, there we go. And not use him while Zach's been in the lineup. Well, Zach was out. They used him, but it just wasn't enough explosive plays. And Zach can bring explosive plays. However, there's just been too many interceptions. 14 touchdowns to 13 interceptions this season. Last season, 17 TDs to 15 picks. I think they need to achieve more balance, whether Zach's in there or not. And that's what the Ticats have done. So we'll talk about the Ticats right away here. But they have to consistently have Brady going no matter who's playing at quarterback.
Yeah, they do. And I just think that I started listening to O'Shea on the Coaches Show with Derek Taylor not too long ago. And, he was having questions from fans who were upset about the lack of plays that Streveler was able to go. Like him having a shorter play or a smaller playbook than Collaros, and O'Shea, just flat out said that's not true. They have the same playbook, which, I don't agree. I don't believe that for a second, because like you said, when Chris has been in there, they've decided to use Brady more. And when they're obviously not letting Chris throw the deep passes that Zach is allowed to throw. And you can't tell me that is just Zach changing the plays so that he can throw deep. So I like Mike O'Shea. I really don't like how phony and very untransparent he is when it comes to anything coming out of that room when it comes to information about their team. Having said that, Caleros back is huge for them, and they need to use Brady Oliveira. Even if it's just a decoy, you establish that run, and then you can do play action all day because the defense is going to need to try to stop Brady.
The big return to Princess Auto Stadium is the King. This guy always finds a way to play with a chip on his shoulder, and he always looks
Sure.
like he's angry. And when he's angry, I do think Lawler is actually at his best. I think some players kind of get a little too frustrated. They push it a little bit. Lawler, he's not a guy I want mad, and he felt disrespected that the Bombers, in his words, chose Dylan Mitchell over him. I don't know if that's an accurate way to characterize it. I would say they chose Dalton Schoen over Kenny the King, which I could see why he could be rattled about that too. But he's returning to the stadium, and he's going to be in Bo's ear at practice saying, keep giving me those targets, Bo.
Yeah, the one knock, and I'm certainly not intending to jinx him here, is he hasn't been able to have a full season where he's been healthy, and so far this season he has, and so that's been huge when it comes to his productivity, and just he was doing so great at the beginning, and he was scoring all those touchdowns, getting all that yardage, and then he was getting doubled and probably even triple teamed, and schemed against, and his production has kind of dropped off a little bit, but yeah, he's going to be fired up going into there, and there's going to be a lot of number 85 jerseys in the stands. No, he's not 85. Sorry, there's going to be a lot of Kenny the King jerseys in
89.
the stands. 89, right? Sorry. And I'm sure they're gonna give him a good welcome before the game goes on, and then they're gonna boo the hell out of him when he's in there. So uh I do look for a big night from Kenny the King here.
Now,
Afternoon.
talked about, the Bombers needing a little bit more balance on a consistent basis from their offense, and the Ticats have found that. Saying Greg Bell really rolling for the Ticats, and some fans were actually like, we need a change here. And then over the last 3 games, 386 yards rushing. Now he's max price in CFL Fantasy. He's costing you big bucks. This guy's moving the ball at a great rate. On the ground, he's got 749 yards on the season. So, well over half of his yards have come in the last 3 games. Not only that, he's good for about 35 pass or receiving yards a game too. He had 7 catches against the Elks last week. So Greg Bell has definitely become a very important part of this Tabby's offense.
100%, and that's what you need, especially coming down to the end of the season when the games are going to get colder and that running game is going to be more and more important. And when you have a guy like Bo Levi who can then pull the ball on play actions and find players like Keandre Smith or Kenny Lawler or Tim White downfield, this balanced attack is going to be huge for Hamilton when it comes to them getting into the play or continuing into the playoffs.
Sorry, my mouse stopped working, so that became a bit of a problem. I didn't freeze.
It will happen. I was like, oh, did we lose? Did YouTube take us down?
Not practicing this week so far, Carrick Wheatfall. He took the big hit last week from a Darius Pickett. The hit of the season. Got the head out of the way, as clean as it can get. I was still worried that the flag was going to come out, even though it was clean.
Yeah.
It didn't. And speedy recovery to him, but also that's what I love about football. We don't see it as much as we used to. which is
You
probably a good thing. But
Yeah.
that was good to see.
Yeah, yeah, it just reminded me of maybe not football, but it just reminded me of seeing a player who, played on that team on your shirt there, patrol coming down the middle of the ice and catching a guy when he was looking down. Scott Stevens taking
That was
people
my
out.
guy. Although,
Yeah.
again, that's why I became a Devils fan, because of Marty Brodeur and Scott Stevens.
Yeah.
The Lindros hit, well, two of them.
Yeah.
Damon Langkow, Ron Francis, Paul Correa. I actually thought we saw Paul Correa's last breath in the 2003 Stanley Cup final when his fogged up his visor, but
Yeah, that was, whew. But yeah, like that.
it's not
it was
cool,
one of
but
those-
I do like violence in sports.
Oh yeah,
I'm
and
a sucker for it.
football is a violent game. We want to see the players get up after those big hits, but we want to see those big hits, and it's like you said, it's kind of a different game, and we don't see that as much, and we absolutely don't want to see it when it comes to anyone lowering their head or trying to make any contact with the head. But when it's textbook like that, and there's no helmet to helmet, and just someone putting their shoulder in another guy's chest, yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Overall, I'm just darn excited for this Ticats Bombers game, man. It's like the premier players in the CFL: Kolaris, Jefferson, Oliveira, Mitchell, Lawler. Let's go. I think they're going to put on a pretty good show at Princess Auto Stadium. Both teams, of course, desperate for a win for a little bit different reasons. The Ticats looking to hang on to first place in the East and have an East final at Hamilton Stadium. Well, the Bombers, they're going to be watching, the previous game, the watching the Stampeders. They don't have the tiebreaker with the Stamps here.
Yeah.
So they could still get that home playoff game. But then there's also the Lions in the mix as well. That West Division is, Calgary through BC currently. It's pretty wild.
Oh, it is. And then Edmonton has lost 2 games in a row in the last second field goal. Like, they could very easily have 2 more wins and be right in there with them. So, this Western, division has been insane this year. And the Eastern division, while it started off, pretty brutal, is come back and is, we're seeing a lot of competitive football in there, and it's just going to be a great ending of the season, I think.
I know it's not a hockey podcast, but yeah, Lindros's career was over after Stevens hit him, and that's very unfortunate. It's still strange for such a big guy to kind of look small on the ice at times. But let's try to talk about. We got football here. Week 17. Hockey's not started yet. The Bombers in week 17, 1.5 point favorites over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. It's not a significant underdog, line here, but I'm taking the Ticats to win in Winnipeg. Who do you got, Sheldon?
We're kind of boring here picking all the same teams, but I also have the Ticats. I just think that I think they have a little bit more to play for right now. And I know both teams have the equal to play for, but I just mean with Montreal kind of getting Alexander back, I think the pressure's on Hamilton and they need to get this win. And I think Kenny Lawler is going to have a big game, and I think Bo Levi is going to have a big game, and it's going to be close because Winnipeg keeps these games close. But I look for Hamilton to kind of take the crowd out of it early.
All right, final game of the week is in Edmonton, where the Riders are visiting as 3.5 point favorites. The over/under at 54.5, and Sheldon in Edmonton, they're closing in on 30,000 tickets sold. The field level lounge is sold out. They got these upper bowl loges now, sort of tents with a 6-person table. They're $1,600 a table at these loges. These are sold out. This looks like it's going to have more people than the Stampeders Elks game from a few weeks ago. That's nothing but good news, even if it is a few thousand Rider fans being in attendance.
Yeah, the two shades of green going at it. Rider fans always travel well because we're everywhere. Uh, I think that, you know, Edmonton has, like we said, they've lost 2 games in a row, walk-off field goals. That's got to be frustrating for fans, but at the same time, it's got to be also a little bit, in my opinion, positive for fans because they're in the games till right at the very end, but they're maybe not getting the job done. So I know a lot of Elks fans are going to want to see them be a little bit more aggressive and try to put games out of reach when it comes to the score and making sure that they're able to just limit the Riders' offense here. And it looks like the Riders could be getting a lot of people back here, possibly from the tub. So that's positive for the Riders, but maybe they might have a little bit of rust they need to shake off, and Edmonton might be able to capitalize on that.
Different stories for both teams when it comes to the injury reports. Edmonton looking like they're going to be missing linebacker Nick Anderson and defensive lineman Jared Brinkman, but Jonathan Kongbo has really come on for the Elks over the last little while. I also feel like Trevor Harris for the Riders has kind of cooled off a little bit, but earlier this summer, that offense was firing on all cylinders. Emilus left. He came back. The offense was great again. It seems like he can really be the straw that stirs the drink for that Rider offense, even if he's not the guy getting the targets.
Yeah, I think him and Trevor have a really good chemistry, and I think even if they use him as a decoy, they're able to capitalize on that plays later because Trevor just really likes to find him, especially on second downs. And I think Trevor's actually a little bit more, uh, he's less reluctant, I think, to uh, have a big pass not connect when he has Emlis out there. I think he has a lot of trust in him that he's going to come down with those 50-50 balls. And the Riders have had absolutely horrible starts each of the last like 3 or 4 games. They're not doing anything in the first quarter. They're going 2-and-out multiple times. Luckily, other than the Montreal game, it really hasn't bit them in the butt, so to speak. But with that loud crowd, the 30,000 people there, like you said, a few thousand Rider fans, but those Elks fans are going to be loud. And at work this week, I heard the Riders practicing with that crowd noise, so they need to find a way to shut them down and to have a fast start and put points on the board in that first quarter.
Where the Elks are still struggling is beating teams inside the division. 1-5 this year. They only beat Calgary in the Labor Day rematch. The Riders, on the other hand, 5-2, where their 2 losses were against that team that Edmonton beat in the West. It's funny how that works. Revisiting that game from week 8, where the Riders barely beat the Elks. It was 21-18, despite, and I don't know if that was the first start for Cody Fajardo as the Elks, where they put up 14 points in the fourth quarter and made it really interesting. But the punishment that the Elks allowed Cody Fajardo to take, he got hammered in that game. Maybe it's something about Mosaic Stadium. He gets sacked a lot at Mosaic Stadium. He sure did when he was a Rough Rider. But that Elks O-line, they can be inconsistent. But now they got Carter O'Donnell on there. We'll see how the pass protection evolves for the Edmonton Elks. But that Rider D-line, man, they weren't pressuring Montreal before the bye. I know that was before the bye. You have to think they're going to want to have a rebound game and be licking their chops and trying to get to Cody Fajardo.
For sure. I think anyone who watches Cody Fajardo knows that he likes to hold on to the ball a little bit longer sometimes, and the Riders are going to hopefully try to exploit that. But they're missing Shane Ray. He's still out with a shoulder injury. It looked to me on the sidelines like he dislocated it. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's been one of the guys who's been really, really good at getting to the quarterback and causing them to feel pressure. So luckily for the Riders, though, and a lot of teams are starting to use this strategy too. They dress a lot of D linemen to keep them all fresh and in there. So uh, Cody's probably going to be running around for his life a lot of this game, just because I think Corey Mace likes to throw pressure at quarterbacks who do run a little bit, because he knows that the linebackers, as long as they're not too far deep in their zones, are they're they're very good at stopping that quarterback ceiling out of there. But I am worried about Rankin when it comes to just, his sheer speed. And if he does get a hole, he can just be gone like that, right?
Well, the Riders have the best rushing average against in the CFL at 81.2 yards. There have been recent games where the running backs have had success against them, and Justin Rankin actually leads the CFL in big plays of 30 yards or more. I think it's like 14, and
Yeah.
Kenny Lawler is right in there at second in the CFL. The cornerback situation got exploited by McLeod Bethel Thompson of the Alouettes a few weeks ago. The Riders will be happy to have Marcus Sales getting healthy. However, Tavon Campbell still is not practiced for the Riders. Benjamin Sapp the third has been practicing, I believe, with the ones at Rider practice. He was just signed August 18th. He spent time on the Atlanta Falcons practice roster last year. He did go to Northern Iowa, so we'll see if he's going to be getting into the game. Either way, if it's his first CFL start, the Elks are going to be testing that. The Elks receiving core is still trying to get some more experience in there. I know Keon Julian Grant and Curly Gittens Jr. have been around, but the American receivers are inexperienced in the CFL and still gaining more chemistry and more experience in this game. So that Ryder defense could try to throw those guys off a little bit.
Absolutely. And they've had some issues with drops too. Uh, some of them have been on them, and some of them have been, Cody misplacing the ball, I think. So Toronto or Saskatchewan's defense, they are going to make you pay if you make a mistake. They love taking the ball away. They love punching the ball out. So I think this one's going to be a little bit of a defensive struggle, actually. So I'm not looking for a whole bunch of points scored here. I'm not looking for, well, I'm looking for it, but I don't see it happening, I guess is what I should say. Uh, because if Sam Emilus is back, I think there might be a little bit of rust there. I don't know if KSV is going to get in. But at the same time, who do you take out? Because the Riders receivers that have been covering for those two players have actually been doing really good. Tommy Neal has become one like a great possession receiver, and a guy that Trevor's been looking for those explosion plays when since Emilus has kind of been gone, and he hasn't even really been using Johnson and Myers lately. And neither of those guys are going to sit down for Emilus or KSB here, but you know I also saw that Thomas Bertrand Hudon has been practicing in full. I saw that Philip Gagnon has been practicing in full. So there's a lot of players that could be, if not this week, next week, getting their way back on this roster. Sean Bain Jr. he's been ready to go for like 4 or 5 weeks, but he just hasn't been able to find a spot. Maybe we'll see him on instead of Mario Alford to try to get him back into there. That's what I'd like to see. But we'll have to see how the depth charts look when they're released in see who's going to be matching up here.
Joe had 8 catches on 11 targets last game out against the Alouettes. His busiest game since returning to the CFL. Much of that probably considered garbage time of that game against the Alouettes. So yeah, the interesting decisions to be made in that receiving core. That is for sure. We talk about Vernon Adams trying to get revenge against his former franchises. How will Cody Fajardo try to win against a team that, many thought he was going to be the guy for many, many years in Saskatchewan. Didn't work out. He went to Montreal, got himself a Grey Cup. You have to think that this one means a lot to him, of course. And the Elks season, I think it's pretty much in the balance here. They're not mathematically done yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if they want any sort of hope, obviously, they just have to win Saturday against the Riders.
For sure. I think Cody's kind of another guy like VA when it comes to trying to go against your former team. He did have that chance earlier on here. And it's interesting because this is only the second time against the Riders, because both of the seasons with Montreal, he didn't make it to any games against the Riders because of injury, I believe. So I expect to see him trying to give it a little extra to try to get this win, but I just don't think it is just because playing the Riders. I truly think that Cody, he matured so much when he went to Montreal. I see in his media availabilities after losses, even after wins, he's a much more mature quarterback, and if he would have had that in Saskatchewan, I think he would have lasted a lot longer here, to be honest. So it's good to see the growth that he's made as a starting quarterback in this league, and it's the Riders are coming off a bye. That's good for them. The Elks, though, they're going into the bye, and we know what that's been like this season.
Wow. That's great that you bring that up. I'm
Thanks.
betting my mortgage on the Riders. Which means the Elks are going to get the victory here. But the Riders do visit Commonwealth Stadium as 3.5-point favorites. I actually went back in time. This was a couple of years ago, and I got Saskatchewan's record at Commonwealth in like the last 30 years, and it was something stupid like 3-28 or something. I think they've improved that a little bit in recent years, and I think they're going to improve that further on Saturday. I got the Riders beating the Elks, Sheldon.
Yeah, I also have the Riders beating the Elks. Unfortunately for my, heart and anxiety, I think it's going to be a lot closer than it should. Just because it's always tough games there. But I'm going to love seeing all those fans there. I'm going to, I hate to see them walk home unhappy, some of them, but it's going to be a Rider W in the city of former champions.
The CFL Podcast Fantasy League, I got a win over you last week, 101.8 to 80.5. I think I may have screwed up your playoff hopes. Played a role of spoiler. And
I mean, I'm the one who started Daggy, so I think I screwed up my own playoff hopes.
Okay. And now this week, I am against Andrew from the Turf District. And you are against Trey Harness here. Let's see here.
Tough battle.
The top 8 seeds make the playoffs here. Trey's third from the Canadian Football Countdown, 11-5 on the season. So you are you mathematically? No,
I'm still in there.
You can 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 teams at 8-8, and you're one of them.
Yeah.
So you could get in there.
Stranger Things.
I could play role of spoiler against Turf District, who's also 8-8. So you really need to cheer for me this week with my fantasy team. Well, thanks, buddy. Buddy. I actually really like my lineup, which is dangerous. I think Paul in the chat said this week feels like an easy week for Pick'em, which I always find dangerous. That sets me up for an 0-4 week. So my fantasy lineup, the Alouette defense, Nathan Rourke as my quarterback and captain, Stevie Scott III. I'm rolling with Spencer Brown of the Argos as my second running back. Then I've got Keon Hatcher to pair with Nathan Rourke. I've got Kenny Lawler, and I have a Joe. I don't know about that pick yet. I'll have to see when the rider roster comes out, but I could swap them out for like Jalen Philpott of the Stampeders or Tommy Niels. That's kind of the players I'm with right now. That leaves me with $400, but I'm pretty darn happy about that lineup. What's yours looking like?
This is freaking insane because other than the defense, I had the exact same lineup that you just said at one point today.
Wow.
And I texted you earlier today saying how hard this fantasy was. But this is what I settled with. So I have the BC Lions defense. I have Nathan Rourke as my captain. I have Scott III. I have Brown as my running back. I have Keon Hatcher. But where we differ is I have Tyson Philpott and I have Eric Brooks. And I have the illustrious $0 left over.
That's why you did it. That's the real reason.
I had a Joe in there, and I had like $400 left or something like that, like he said. And I just looked again, and I was like, oh, I can do a 0. Okay, that's who we're going with.
Nice. We're upon week 17 of the 2025 CFL season. I'd like to apologize for the show being longer, but man, with all the rules stuff going on. I like these long shows, man, to be honest. You like the marathons?
Yeah.
And I like having people in the chat as well. It's really awesome being able to engage in real time when we're doing the show. You can join 2 and Out. I know it's late in the season for fantasy, for Pick'em. It's in the description of our podcasts and on YouTube. You can rate, review, and subscribe to 2 and Out on YouTube. You can support the show on Patreon. I really appreciate our patrons, our YouTube subscribers. It really helps us cover the hosting costs to keep the show going and make it what it is. Take care of yourself and each other. Enjoy week 17.
The 2 and Out CFL podcast is written, produced, and hosted by Travis Currah and co-hosted by Sheldon Jones. Subscribe to 2 and Out on all major podcast platforms and YouTube to keep up to date with future shows.